Hi, my name is Katie McCarthy, and I'm here with Jim Danahy, and we are going to talk about 1 Million Acts of Innovation, new retail innovation forum. So, Jim, my first question for you is, what's the difference between omni-channel retailing versus multi-channel retailing?
Everybody has their own definition, and they love terms in this industry, Katie. But I think what most people agree is that omnichannel retailing is the biggest shift in power in that industry in a century. It's essentially the change from the past century where retailers could choose whether they wanted to simply be in bricks and mortar, or Amazon could choose that it just wanted to be online, or whether companies for a century could be in the catalog business or the online only business. To shift all of that over to where the control is now in the hands of you and me as consumers. And we will decide which channel we'll go to and how and when we'll shop and what the price will be and whether we'll have it delivered or pick it up or whatnot. That's where you see things like showrooming being discussed, where consumers will walk into a store, hold out their smartphone in front of something, take a picture of it, and then decide whether the price is cheaper online and buy it somewhere else. Those options are sufficiently available now that the retailer can't say, well, we don't do e-commerce, or we don't have a catalog, or we don't do this, or we don't do that. That's the part that people have been discussing for a decade, but now it's finally here. And the result is that if a retailer only offers products in their bricks and mortar locations and offers different services or assortments online, even if they are offering something in those areas, they lose, and they lose big. And consumers are punishing them for not offering a balanced and consistent offering regardless of the channel. So instead of those multiple channels that were separate and discrete, that offered different types of service and usually also offered different merchandise and different pricing, consumers all say BS to that now. I will have what I want, when I want, where I want, and guess what? Tomorrow, it'll be different. So these are the issues that retailers now have to recognize, that Katie walks in today and buys something in the store. Tomorrow, she also walks into the store, but she wants it delivered to a place she's going to be at for an hour and a half in Manhattan. And that's already here. That's what the omnichannel is, and that's what has completely blown up the ability of retailers to decide where they're going to invest their money, in warehouses, in stores, in online capability. The answer has to be all of the above, or they'll find someone else who does.
Wow, this is a really huge shift. What are some of the questions and concerns that retailers are going to have to be dealing with and looking at?
Well, they're defensive and offensive. So the defensive questions are, what do I absolutely have to have so I don't lose Katie? Do I have lists? Do I have outbound messaging to her in my marketing activities? And do I have to have stores in different locations? Since we've seen a generation, particularly in North America, of retailers concentrating on massive stores that have to be serviced by massive distribution centers and the biggest possible trucks that are allowed on the road, when for the last number of years we've seen shifts into cities, small stores, back to Main Street, young populations repopulating North American downtowns that can't be serviced in that way. Small stores can't be serviced by big trucks with pallets or even cases of goods. They have to have eaches, one at a time, of individual items replenished on a regular basis and in a different way in this part of town than in that part of town. So these are the kinds of defensive questions retailers have to answer. And then offensively, they start asking questions like Jeff Bezos at Amazon is now saying with his little 4-rotor drone, saying, I'm going to deliver those products to you directly over the heads of my competitors and drop them in your backyard. Is that going to happen immediately? Is the FAA going to allow, 6 pounds of nails to fly over your children in the backyard coming from the Home Depot? Well, maybe not yet. But the thinking is what's pushing people to start challenging the original rules. Is a truck the only way? Is the last mile the only mile that counts from a store or an Amazon warehouse, for example, directly to my back door? Well, my son, who's just graduating from college, had the big breakthrough, which was that he was able to get Macy's.ca, so the Canadian website of a retailer with not a single store in all of Canada, to deliver the pea jacket that he wanted that was on sale to his student flop house that doesn't have the same address as his credit card. Those are all revolutionary things that weren't with us with very many retailers even 5 years ago.
Oh, you have a smart son.
I do.
You must be very proud. Well, so what new skill sets do retailers really need in order to be successful? And how do they attract those skill sets in their employee base?
That's a put and take as well. There are going to be some skill sets that I believe they won't need anymore, that they can exchange for some new ones.
Yeah.
So the ones that probably they won't need anymore is the supply chain. This is the aspect of retail that you and I as consumers never see. That's the going and getting and the handling and the pushing through warehouses and the shipping on trucks. We believe that over the next period of time, there will be a blending of those resources so that they're not dedicated to individual retailers. Up to this point, big retailers have been able to crush small retailers with the efficiencies they generated by shipping ever bigger shipments, bigger boxes in bigger trucks to bigger stores. And as I mentioned earlier, that's now shifting in the opposite direction. So they can get to the point where we start looking at hybrids of new technologies and some very old technologies, terms called DSD, direct store delivery. We've always had that for things like dairy and bakery and soft drinks, where the manufacturer actually delivers the goods directly to the back door of the store, and in many instances delivers it directly to the shelf. So that what retailers will be able to exchange all of that invisible work that doesn't differentiate one retailer to from the next for is actual customer-facing service improvements, so that there is an impression that you have about Apple or Lululemon or whomever you're going to buy your goods from that is the same whether it's online or in store. And that's going to lead to better education for what I call the accidental profession. Right? You get a job in retail and your first impression is, I'm so sorry to hear that. Maybe I can find a new job for you.
Yeah.
Well, that's changing. That this is a career someone actually chooses. Highly skilled, highly trained, and well differentiated, one retailer from the next, with both technical skills and customer-oriented skills. That's going to mean that retail ceases to be the low common denominator minimum wage industry that it has been post-war.
Yeah.
And that's that other enormous shift, such that you can't just get a job in retail. You've got to have a job in that industry of retail. Selling electronics is not the same as shoes, and it sure isn't the same as pharmacy. Those are highly skilled jobs. If we look at something like pharmacy, for example, you've got $80,000 and $90,000 a year university-educated professionals in a retail location. We're going to see people like pharmacists and other healthcare providers bringing high skill, and the companies behind them having brand differentiated training and rewards for selling our clothing or our shoes or our furniture in a way that is distinctly different from the others. So the removal of the back end right up to the store shelf, where vendors might even put the product on the shelf, so that you're walking into a grocery store and it's not the grocery staff that's replenishing the shelves, it's the people who made the food. The people in the store help you put that wonderful meal together, help you ensure that if there are dietary interests, they're fully informed about that. So can you imagine the revolution that would have from a very passive retail relationship with the people in the store to things as intimate as your healthcare or your food?
Yeah, that's a really rich relationship with a retailer. So for most organizations going through Omnichannel, the Omnichannel conversion, one critical component is culture.
Yes.
And at what stage of enabling the Omnichannel do you really start to evaluate the current culture, and what steps do you take to transition?
In our experience, Katie, the really forward-looking cultures, those who have gotten past the defensive component toward a goal in the future, that we will be the retailer that our experiences will be characterized by with very granular descriptions, such that if we take, for example, a Lululemon, we will have an ongoing relationship with the communities in which we work. We will have a relationship with our customers even before the store opens for business, because we've designed our stores so that all those fixtures have wheels on them and can be pushed to the side, and we've spent 5 times as much on that beautiful bamboo floor, and we've got people getting their morning exercise in a yoga class even before the place opens, because the staff are also health, fitness, and yoga instructors, and they're being paid to be engaged with those customers. They're not just getting minimum wage. The evidence is in how they're being paid and what they're actually doing with the store, of a culture that is considerably broader than that. So we've got all kinds of retailers who are wringing their hands and saying, oh my, but they haven't yet decided where we're going. They know they're in trouble. They know that they won't be making these decisions anymore, or most do. Those who are in denial look like Sears. And those who are moving forward make those technical decisions very quickly. But then they realize, if I no longer define myself by those things that are going to become price of entry, cost, procurement related issues, then the actual assortment of merchandise that we choose, or design in some cases, and the nature of the service that we bring forward is going to have to be defined by a really smart vision of the future. That's clearly innovative, and it's really scary for some, but it depends on somebody having a dream and then sharing it. And that's, I think, the nature of culture, perhaps more intensively in collegial, people-intensive businesses like retail.
Well, you find yourself today playing a really critical role in helping 1 million acts of innovation be successful in executing this Retail Innovation Forum. Can you tell us why you think this forum is important for retailers?
Well, for those who've already decided that, who are in retail and who have already decided that they want to make the change, I think they will find it instructive to meet other like-minded retailers who've already decided that. Not because they will necessarily steal ideas and drop them into their own locations, because, as I mentioned, you've got to find a way to differentiate. So by definition, what you have to say is, what's my equivalent of wheels on fixtures and yoga classes at the beginning of at the beginning for my pharmacy or my shoe store or my fast food outlet, which may not want to be fast anymore, or it may want to be mobile. These kinds of events, and 1 million acts of innovation is especially good at making the juices flow for like-minded individuals to then ask, well, how did you do it? The how questions come after people have committed to the why. And so then you get involved in technical questions. So we spend our life, frankly, working on the technical things, making the fuzzy issues clearer with either empirical evidence or tools and technologies that actually bring productivity to some of these new ways of doing business. But I find you have to have equal measures of inspiration from like-minded people trying to achieve something similar.
Wow. It's really a dynamic and changing field. And if people are interested in being in this conversation, they've listened to this and they know that you're the person, this is the conversation they want to be in, and tackling the omni-channeling problems or challenges that their retail business is having. How can they do that?
Well, I guess they can go to 1millionactsofinnovation.org.
Great. Thank you so much for your time and expertise.
Thank you.
You're welcome.